Hello! And welcome to episode 51 of Modern Media Review, the podcast that's coming to you from a variety of levels. In England, Tier 2, Scotland, Tier 4, which thankfully, although it's mixed up, won't affect the recording levels, as long as I sort of shout a bit. I'm Robin Gibson.
And I'm Sean Gollogly. Well, Robin, as some of our listeners may have noticed, we've been away for a few weeks, but
Yes.
Personally speaking, I've not been standing idly by. As the eyes of the world have been focused, I guess, on the US and coronavirus tears in the UK. Tears hasn't fallen from the face. Anyway, it sounded better than it's come out.
You've been busy. Well, so have I, because I've been stopping spread starts us all. You know what I mean?
What? I mean,
stopping spread starts us all.
Have you sort of like gone a bit COVID or caught dyslexia? Can you catch that?
No, you can't catch dyslexia. No, stopping spread starts us all. I noticed the other day is the bits of the message board that you can read behind Nicola Sturgeon when she's giving her daily briefing on TV. Stopping spread starts us all. I think there's some other words in it, but they're on the right hand side and you can't see them, so she needs to move over a bit or else get the sign language woman out of the picture.
Well,
it's as good as any other slogan, isn't it? Just a bit too long. You need a 3-word one, don't you? Like,
absolutely.
But how about stopping starts all? That'll help. I mean, I don't know what it means, but it will definitely help.
This is one of the many things that we're going to miss after the exit of Cummings, is those beautiful 3-word slogans. But getting back to what I've been up to, Robin, which I think you'll be impressed with. I've been out in the US as part of Donald Trump's legal team, believe it or not. Obviously, I was a little bit worried, having no real legal skills at all. But I fitted right in. And,
I could imagine you did, yeah.
Absolutely. Pitched them a few ideas, that's what you do when you join these teams. Specifically, how to rejuvenate and make over Rudy Giuliani for his press conference.
I think he doesn't need a makeover, he looks great.
Yeah, exactly. I suggested, obviously, picking a swanky venue, like the Four Seasons Total Landscaping car park. Pep him up with a few Bloody Marys. Douse him in economy hair dye and set him loose. I mean...
And it worked.
Well, yeah, you've got a talking, wimpy chocolate sundae.
Wimpy, that's a bit,
1970s?
Passé, isn't it? Well, so's everything else nowadays.
Rudy's fall from grace is a touch Shakespearean, wouldn't you say? There you had this swashbuckling Attorney General for New York and a hero from 9/11 reduced to this sort of comic figure. And when you look at the rest of that legal team, I mean, what do you make of that Sidney Powell? When she was talking about unleashing the Kraken, does she think, that was a film. Does she think it was a documentary? She's part of some, weird sort of like tag wrestling team who just outdo each other to become more unbelievably out there. She's accusing Venezuela, Cuba, anyone, I think, walking on 2 legs of rigging the thing. What a fiasco.
Donny Osmond's been very quiet and all over it, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, I'm shocked by that.
They could do with him, because I remember reading an interview in the 70s with him when the US, I can't remember who it was, but the US also had some sort of controversial president. And Donny's exact quote was, "I'm proud to be an American and I support whoever is the president."
Oh,
Now, I think he was just trying to be a bit equivocal there, but
yeah.
That attitude might help them out a bit, mightn't it? If it's still prevalent, it might explain all the votes he got. Anyway, I'm in Scotland right now, not the US, and we've still got a fighting chance of getting out of the tired old UK setup, haven't we?
What? Whoa! What do you mean?
By the time the first shipments get through of chlorinated chicken and dodgy milk, and through the borders checks and red tape, Scotland will be free, which is okay as long as I can still come back to London whenever I want. I don't want to be told I've got to stay here and help.
No, you never want to help, do you? And just be careful, Robin, if I'm sitting on that border with my little red rubber stamp, because as far as I can see, we're going very much back to the sort of like 1950s. You used to have the little stamp on your desk, not in the 1950s because I wasn't alive then, but you can imagine what I mean.
Yeah. But, the problem is there's just not going to be any roaming, is there? Young people used to be able to look forward to roaming Europe, going cross-border with a mobile phone and fishing in international waters. They could even get a job, couldn't you, in Spain or Slovakia? But now all they'll be able to do is cross the border into Kent to look at the lorry park.
Absolutely.
So it's going to make gap years cheaper for parents, isn't it?
Oh, massively.
I mean, they're struggling to put Cocoa Pops on a breakfast table, aren't they? Never mind coughing for a year in Thailand and Tibet.
Well, it'd be a bit of a boon, wouldn't it, for your parents? Sort of like saying, Mum and Dad, I want to have a gap year, please. Sure, no problem, son. You're off to Skegness.
Anyway, it's just going to be a bit of a disaster, I think, in the new year. Going by what I've been reading in the media, which we're reviewing.
You really have got the wrong end of the stick here, Robin. And I don't know what snowflake publications you've been reading. But the glory days, Robin, are coming back soon. There's going to be jam and loads of jam for everyone.
Jam?
Yeah, loads of jam.
What about honey, grapes and wine?
Well, that's another old favourite. So we've got... This is a lovely menu, actually.
Well, that's what Michael Gove, his great quote from a few months ago about how the price of honey, grapes and wine would be reduced after Brexit. Because we all live in honey, grapes and wine, don't we?
We certainly do. Food of the gods. But, I mean... So we've had loads of good news. Donald Trump has personally invented a vaccine for COVID-19.
Oh, did he? Oh, good.
Well, he ground down some Kentucky Fried Chicken bones and mixed it with that barbecue sauce from McDonald's. And so that's all good. And I don't know if you were following this, but Boris has not been standing idly by, doing nothing, coughing and wheezing from his bunker. He's committed £24 billion to the war chest to make the Royal Navy Europe's naval superpower, Robin.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Well, Britannia rules the waves once again. We're getting right back up there as a superpower. Stick that in your snowflake pipe and smoke it. We're going back to the future, Robin, with gunboat diplomacy. If you know your British Prime Ministers, Lord Palmerston, who attacked China in the 19th century because those pesky spoilsports wouldn't let us traffic opium into their country.
That was annoying.
It was annoying. And it really affected our sort of like GDP, more importantly. Update this. We're going to park our ships off Europe. And I think we're going to force, seeing as we don't make much anymore, what can we do? I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll force HP sauce into the mouths of the Frenchies and Krauts.
Do we actually still make HP sauce?
Do you know what? I haven't looked at the small print on the label.
You got Clark's shoes, haven't you? They're still British.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, the Dutch, they can take their clogs and chuck them in the canal.
Tizer. What about Tizer? No one here wants to drink it, do they? We've got loads of things we can export. We'll send them the stuff that we don't want, and they can send us the stuff that they don't want, which is what they're probably planning to do anyway.
And I'll tell you what we'll do as well, while we're at it. We'll restart the Cod Wars. Sort out those Icelandic lads and lasses in their fishing boats. Because I tell you, that'll teach them for knocking us out of Euro 2016.
Well, you speak for yourself there. Scotland weren't knocked out of Euro 2016, mate.
Not in the finals, Robin.
No, but I'm quite glad about all this kind of cross-border stuff. It's got a real punk feel to it, hasn't it? The main thing I was pleased about this week was that report on the BBC that there's going to be mayhem at Holyhead.
You'd like a bit of mayhem, don't you?
Well, that's what some of the haulage people, logistics as they call it now, that's what they were saying. Apparently they're going to have to process briefcases full of paperwork across everywhere. Kent, not just Holyhead, Kent as well. And I'm thinking, like, after we missed out on that investment in bitcoins, maybe briefcases.
Yeah, definitely. Because what I always associate with briefcases is long-haul lorry driving.
Well, there's going to be a market for this old-fashioned stuff once we get the country back, isn't there? Anyway, before we get the country back and split in two and all the borders are closed and whatever, let's do some trans-border plugging and just try and hang on to those listeners in other parts of the UK.
Yeah.
If you like the podcast, you're probably still listening to it if you like it. And we're available not only on what you're listening to, but we're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, I think, Pocket Casts, all those things. That? Pocket Casts.
Never heard of it, mate.
It's another of these podcast apps, you know. And Spotify and YouTube. and all the rest of it, and it's not very professional, this. And we've got a website, that's what it is. Remember those? Website, modernmediareview.com. It's all very modern. The problem is...
We won't need all that, Robin. We won't need all that.
You can tell I'm struggling with this because my mindset's already gone back into the sort of old-fashioned era.
I'm not surprised that we're struggling with these modern things like the internet now, because with Boris we seem to be going sort of backwards in time, although he did use WhatsApp quite interestingly for his crossover with the 19th century, because he was in full-on 19th century speak last week when he was defending Priti Patel, because he sent a message to the Tory MPs via WhatsApp and about her bullying controversy, saying, "Time to form a square around the Pritster." I mean, exactly. That's your reaction. I mean, isn't this right off the playing fields of Eton? Very Duke of Wellington, gallant guardsman forming up the thin red line. And what about Robin? What about her calling her the Pritster?
Well, it's one of those nicknames that people use who put toothpaste up each other's bottoms, you know.
So, like, how old is this man? You know, sounds like he's been overdosing on the famous Five.
Yeah, they do that as well, don't they? I bet they stuck toothpaste up each other's bottoms.
That's so shocking. One unnamed source from inside the party said when he was referring to Priti Patel and her bullying, which obviously he quite seemed to find exciting, maybe, he said, "Life is not like an Enid Blyton novel." Well, you could have fooled me, Robin, because listen...
Well, don't we know it?
Listen, yeah, we bloody do know it. But listening to Boris, he sounds like he's right on that groove.
Well, what does he even mean? I mean, okay, he's using WhatsApp. What does he mean, form a square?
Interestingly, it's a defunct military tactic.
For God's sake.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, what you did was, when things were getting a bit dire on the battlefield and there was a danger of officers getting killed, they got all the little sort of like privates to form a square around them so basically they'd hit the dirt first.
Oh, very. I mean, seriously, can no one get into the 21st century here? Did you see the front of the Sun yesterday?
Very 21st century.
They had Noddy Holder mocked up as Boris Johnson. Saying, "Here it is, mini Christmas." I mean, okay, everyone knows, you know, the Slade song, I suppose, or they have heard it without... Probably most people don't even know who it is, which is one good thing about tiers 2, 3 and 4,
okay.
Possibly only 3 and 4. You don't have to go into shops and hear, "I wish it could be Christmas every day, do you?
Although, hopefully, it won't be like Fairy Tale of New York, who the culture counsellors have been at, changing the lyrics.
Nah, that's just the biggest PR. That is the most successful PR job in music history. 30 years they've been doing that one every Christmas. Has ever a record been talked about every year at the same moment?
Maybe Noddy Holder's Merry Christmas, everybody.
No, it's great work from the Pogues PR. I mean, nobody cares about it. If you listen to One Extra, every other bloody word's bleeped out. You don't hear anything about that, do you? Anyway, we won't be able to move that far into the 21st century because we won't get that far. The Tories, I remember earlier in the year they managed to halt the increase in UK life expectancy, which seemed to me like it was a logical peak of their whole programme. Stop people living. Goodness, it's austerity in extremis, isn't it? But now, not content with stopping life expectancy, they've started chucking in a bit of a debate about whether we should even bother feeding children or not.
Well, you know, sometimes you've got to be a bit Jeremy Bentham, you know, you've got to be a bit utilitarian. And, I mean, the Daily Mail had a nice thing going.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah,
right,
so
okay.
Obviously there's no need to feed children, really, is there? I mean, because
Well, next thing they'll be wanting a roof over their head and clean clothes and stuff like that.
Yeah, shocking. So, Daily Mail, Marcus Rashford, obviously everyone knows, has been shaming the government into providing free school meals for kids that aren't getting breakfast or lunch. So the Daily Mail obviously supporting that through gritted teeth.
They have to do that sometimes.
You do. They say, what a result. Here was the headline about Marcus Rashford. What a result. Campaigning football star Marcus Rashford has bought 5 luxury homes worth more than £2 million, Robin.
That's not even that much.
No. Not for 5.
Exactly. What can you get for £2 million?
You can get a Starbucks latte. It was just a bit schneidi, really, wasn't it?
It's still a healthy debate about feeding children, you know. I mean, to be honest, to me, Marcus Rashford's media man of the year, really. Look at, he's 22, isn't he? I mean, who were our youthful role models? People like
Maradona.
Keith Richards and Sid Vicious, or at the very best, militant tendency or something. Which, I admit I was a member. They thought the best idea was just to hang the judges and nationalise the bank. That's not going to feed anyone's children, is it?
No.
But it was all about breakfast cereal in the sky, wasn't it? Ill-informed. But anyway,
go on.
I just think, even despite his efforts and other people, I don't know who else is making an effort, certainly not me, it looks like it's going to be a long, hard winter, doesn't it? And I think there's a solution that's been overlooked.
Ooh.
You remember the news reports about the Nightingale hospitals, right?
No, I missed that one, but it sounds lovely. Tranquil and pastoral.
Yeah, well, it was about how great an achievement it was to build them, and they are tranquil and pastoral because there's nobody in them. And, in some cases it wasn't that big a deal anyway. It was just like a big loft conversion set with IV tubes and ventilators.
Sweet.
Anyway, they've not been using them because apparently they can't get the staff, or they can't find a British staff who'll do it for fruit picking rates. And you think they could just farm it out to Capita or Serco and everything would go well, but at the moment it's a lot of space going to waste, right?
I think the Cabinet may have blown the budget on a lot of these things. Not being able to pay people fruit picking rates would be some of it, because they've been spending all the money on all these untendered PPE contracts for their mates and donors, and all under the cover, nicely swept under the carpet, of the COVID emergency, Robin.
What's the problem with that?
No, I've got no problem.
Everyone's just trying to help.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a mate next door, and if I'd been in a position to help him out, I'd have given him £21 million to broker something. He's a Spanish hairdresser, but apparently that doesn't sort of stop you being qualified.
No, well, didn't someone who lived round the corner from Matt Hancock get a deal?
He did.
He was making paper cups or something. He gave him a deal to produce medicinal vials or some kind of equipment.
Yeah,
that's fair enough.
Exactly. What's the problem? It cuts through the red tape, Robin.
Anyway, never mind. The point is, let's cut through the red tape, because
anyway,
these hospitals don't need to be closed like that. Instead of all this faffing around with these different levels of tiers 2 and 3 and financial support and all that, you should introduce an optional tier, maybe 5 or something like that, which is just hibernation. All they need to do is get everyone to opt in for hibernation, right? Go in at the local Nightingale and you get administered with daily, non-lethal doses of opiates and Nytol. That's good stuff, that.
I do find this an attractive option.
Yeah, so you go in, you get your opiates, your Nytol. There's somebody there to turn you over every couple of weeks to make sure that you don't get any bed sores. And there could be tiers in there as well, with a premium paying section, just below the price of a Premier League season ticket, and you're away. And they could get you one of those fucking mattresses they advertise in the telly for about £700. When did mattresses become a lifestyle thing?
Well, it's like everything, really. But I do remember when futons first came out. Do you remember them?
Yeah, I never understood what the point of those was.
Well, exactly.
Just like lying on the floor, isn't it?
Exactly. They were very trendy. And I got a bit turned off them, Robin, when a student mate of mine put me up. We were out on a night out and I couldn't make it home, so went round to his. And saying that he put me up is really wrong, because up is the wrong word when you're thinking about futons. Because what you have to do, really, is you had to get down lower than the floor to get into it. It made you very susceptible to the drafts.
Yeah.
Because obviously you couldn't afford to heat the place.
No.
And very vulnerable to the ant infestation he had in the flat.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's mattresses now, isn't it? This is what I don't... You see these adverts, get this mattress for 30% off, and then it turns out it costs like £800. What? How good can this mattress be? This is just the latest thing. Like when they ran out of new £3 versions of cups of coffee to flog to morons, let's just give them something else to shell out the thick end of £1,000 for, a mattress that you can get in IKEA or Dreams for about £200. What will it be next?
I know. All you have to do about any of these things when you look at it, whether it's bread, coffee, or whatever, just stick artisan in front of it. And, you're good for another sort of 500 or 1,000% markup. Handcrafted is another good one. Well, think about this. What about your handcrafted replica football shirts?
I didn't know they were handcrafted.
Well, Robin, what it really means is handcrafted by the hands of children on a penny a day.
Yeah, I see what you mean, yeah.
I don't think they're,
But they'll be on a cut.
Yeah, like John Lewis. So, yeah, I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Sweatshop partnership, it's called.
I'm sure the sweatshop kids get a share of the £60 on your fat man's replica Premier League shirt. Mind you, 60 quid. I did look this up when I pulled this figure out of the air. 60 quid would be a bargain if you're a Spurs fan, by the way, because they're not shy about charging, Robin. The basic home shirt at Spurs is 70 notes. For pure...
you could get like 3 real shirts that aren't made out of plastic for 70 quid, couldn't you?
That is true, but they wouldn't be handcrafted in nylon. But if you want an elite home shirt, which looks exactly the same on the website, it's a cool 100 quid. And that's without your fat sado name and number on it.
What's the difference between the basic and elite?
Well,
it'll be like the difference between the mattresses in my Hibernation Nightingale Centre. So anyway, you're in the top tier, right? You get one of these Ponzi mattresses.
Right.
You're not a normal one in the people's tier. See, I've already given it a name. And then they'd both have like proper medical stuff. They'd keep an eye on you and roll you over. And then there's a separate, you'd have a separate tier for Brexiteers who'd get a futon or a rough mat or just the floor. The Brexiteers are going to all be looked after by Barbara Windsor wearing a nurse's uniform.
Oh, they'd like that.
Yeah, she's only 83.
Well,
that'll give them a taste of what's to come in terms of medical care after Brexit.
They would love that, Robin, because what you could soothe them with subconsciously is round-the-clock Virilin CDs or recordings of Last Night of the Proms on loop. You know, with not the BBC Snowflake one, but the director's cut with full-on Rule Britannia lyrics. Or, hey, let's not stop there. Let's get some proper old-school stuff in for them, like...
The proper lyrics with slash those cursed foreigners and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Or to settle them down, because obviously that would get the old heart racing. Maybe soothe them with some Muffin the Mule, you know, Andy Pandy, or, you know, recordings of the good old days, because quite literally, Robin, they were.
Yeah, they were. This is great, and this will be the good new days of this winter, won't it? Hibernating, stuffed to the gills with non-lethal opiates and Nytol, and then when the weather gets better, right? Rishi Sunak,
right?
For he can do the premium,
yeah, like that,
and Robert Jenrick can go around the standard class. You know that minister, the one who sorts out the property deals for Richard Desmond, yeah. Sunak and Jenrick can come round and they wake you up in April for a nice lunch and some redundancy therapy with crystals and massage.
Do you know what? That would make me feel a lot better.
Third tier customers, when they wake them up, they'll get food vouchers, a sleeping bag in a tent, and they'll drop them off in Tottenham Court Road. This is brilliant. Hibernation has got to be better than what we're getting offered now, which is a digital Christmas. What's a digital? I mean, it's not going to make much difference to me because at Christmas, I'm really at my happiest when I'm out shooting a stag.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You do a lot of that in Scotland, don't you?
Yeah, it's not banned, is it?
What about smashing up phone boxes?
Well, you could just, if there's no stags around, there's always plenty of people out walking their dogs. And then if you get stuck, the old favourite, as you just said, smashing up phone boxes. None of these things are barred under even the tightest, the strictest tiers. There are plenty of alternatives to digital Christmas.
Okay, come on then.
In fact, it might just be better instead of even trying this digital Christmas if everyone just went out for the first time in months and sort of roamed the heath.
Well,
I mean, if you don't have access to a heath, there aren't so many of them nowadays, are there? You can just sort of walk around the house and say, or just walk up and down stairs for a while.
Well, no, Robin, because Boris has saved Christmas, which also sounds a bit Enid Blyton, isn't it? Boris, the man who saved Christmas. The shackles are going to be off, but we've only got 5 days, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I saw that.
In England.
Yeah, 5 days in a bubble, yeah.
So, I'll tell you what, man, I'm going to have to work this really, really cleverly. I'm going to large it at the football and the racing for all 5 days. Me, I think they're allowing 4,000 of us to go to the races.
No, it's 2,000 in tier 2 and or a certain percentage of the capacity of the ground, depending on which is smaller.
No, screw that. Me and 4,000 people are going mental for Christmas. It's going to be full-on beers at the races. I'll tell you what, which will be interesting at Kempton, because table service is going to be a bit of toughie there, given there are no tables. But yeah, I'm going absolutely mental. 5 days, full on, and I'm going to run it into New Year as well. And I've asked Father Christmas for a ventilator, just in case I'm prepared because, Robin, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. Well, or die.
Or die. Yeah.
Exactly.
Which makes you wonder if there's going to be a next time for a Modern Media Review, doesn't it?
Blimey. Yeah, I've not even thought of that.
Well, I'm going to stay in my bubble, so if you die, I'll just do it myself. Next time, I think we should probably... It's a bit early at the moment, although I have noticed that the Christmas ads have started.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe we're a bit late.
I did notice that Kevin the Carrot has made a reappearance.
I mean, we could have a look at it. It still seems a bit... If we do another podcast in 2 weeks, it's a bit early for Christmas ads, in my view. Or is it?
No, never too early. I mean, I'm going to be going out and doing my noddy holder stuff from now on.
Okay, well, get your top hat on and bugger off. And we'll say thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you with a rundown of the Christmas ads next time, but much sooner than last time.
Yes.
This time. Better than last. Sooner than
More
last time.
than any other time.
Sooner than this time.
We'll get it right.
Certainly. Okay, and goodbye.
Cheers.